This video is sponsored by Dubby Jitterless Energy Blend and by Reaper Apparel Company. Stay tuned till after the video to learn how you can save 10% off of your order. Hey, what's happening, ladies and germs? This is the PackerMan, and welcome to this edition of The Fuel. Where today we're going to be talking about the 2024 Grant Park 165 at the Chicago Street Course in Grant Park, Chicago, Illinois. This is the first video of a long list of videos this week. I got the fuel today. Next 3 days are spare parts high gear. Even though it hasn't been uploaded yet, Friday will be the newest episode of Tornado Tales, where I'm going to be talking about the Ewan tornado from 1974, and then on Saturday, the newest episode of Flea Market Hunter. So obviously, it's been pretty friggin' busy. Lots of content coming out this week here on the channel, so I've been pretty busy. But title of this episode is One Step Forward, Two Steps Back. And that's mainly talking about NASCAR officiating. First up, the positive. They declared this race a wet race because it started raining as they were about to take the green, but then they decided to do something that I think surprised a lot of us. Typically, they force everyone to go on a particular tire, but in this case they decided, you know what, we're going to let you make that decision. You can decide whether or not to start on the wet tires or to start on the dries. They left that up to the teams, and I was like, thank you, that's all we've been asking for ever since New Hampshire, is to give these teams more control. Let them make their decisions based on what the weather is doing, whether or not they want to go to wets or to dries or whatever the case may be. So that was a good decision on their part. But there were some questionable ones as well. Like the end of stage one, they decided to run the rest of the end of the stage out under caution because they didn't want pit stops at the end of the stage. If that's the case, then why just call the stage right there, award the points, open pit road, and get the second stage going again? Because we literally had that first caution came out on lap 17. It was a 20 lap first stage, and it was Corey LaJoie spinning in turn 5 by himself. He was able to get it back going again. And yet we were under caution for like 25 fucking minutes. Unacceptable. You know, because they could have said, well, we're going to go ahead and call the stage here since it was going to end under caution anyway. Award the points, open pit road, and get things back going again. We could have gotten some more racing in before the heavy rains came in. And then when the rains really started to come in, they decided to stay on double file restarts when they could have just gone to single file restarts. So that was also a weird decision that ended up biting them in the ass. But yeah, some questionable decisions by NASCAR officials. Not to mention the fact that, you know, when this new TV deal comes in next year, they really need to start negotiating some earlier start times, because this race started at 5:30. You know, and I realized that they had the IndyCar lead in, but they're not going to have that anymore since IndyCar is going to Fox. Cat, would you please watch out? You know, and not only that, being next to a lake in the middle of summertime tends to brew late afternoon, early evening thunderstorms on a pretty consistent basis. So even though there was only like a 10 to 30% chance for weather. When NASCAR is in town, you might as well triple that number. And that was exactly the case. And for like the third or fourth week in a row, we had a race that was basically interrupted by rain. Which there really isn't anything NASCAR can do as far as the weather is concerned. But they can do something about their start times. Because this starting in the late afternoon to evening, especially at a track, a temporary race course with no lights, is absolutely ridiculous. That's something that they need to change. But one thing that I am glad that they changed is that if it comes to darkness, there's a set time. So if it comes down to it, which it did, this would become a timed race. And once the timer hits 0, the next time the leader crosses the line, it'll be 2 laps to go. I'm glad they got that sorted out instead of just waiting until the last minute to call it, which is stupid. At least give the teams some heads up as to, whether or not they're going to have, enough time or daylight, as it were, to finish the race. So at least they did that. But there was also the fact that they were going to end the race regardless if it had gone halfway or not, because it's a street course race, and they needed to get it deconstructed starting Monday morning. So there was no chance of coming back for Monday like you see at other venues. But they did manage to get it to halfway, and in fact they got pretty far past halfway. They completed almost 60 of the 75 laps, so we saw, I think, about 3/4 of the total distance, which isn't terrible. But yeah, unlike last year where the rains were pretty much prevalent all through the day, and it wasn't until in the afternoon that it finally got going. In this case, they could have gotten this race in completely if they had even a 2 p.m. start time. This 3 and 4 p.m. start time and 5 p.m. start time bullshit needs to end. Because this is 4 weeks in a row where Mother Nature has basically stuck her nose in shit. And that's something that needs to be addressed. Because when you have people, from the fans all the way down to the people covering this shit, now getting to the point where it's getting frustrating about these late start times, then maybe that's something you need to address going forward. Now, as far as the race itself is concerned, the race was actually pretty solid. I thought the first stage was pretty good. I don't think it matched up to what the Xfinity race had, because, oh my god, SVG, Ty Gibbs, and Kyle Larson put on a fucking show in that Xfinity Series race. And I think that's one of the things that made the rain, the rain delay and all that stuff, and Mother Nature intervening during the race yesterday, so frustrating. Is because in the dry, the Xfinity race was just absolutely phenomenal. And you had a case of Kyle Larson and SVG trading the lead back and forth on so many different occasions without resorting to bumping each other out of the way using racecraft. Racecraft, ain't that a fucking concept? To set up passes for the lead and make them. So, yeah, the Xfinity race yesterday, or on Saturday, was actually pretty damn good. Yesterday's race wasn't quite as good. And that was for a couple reasons. It wasn't really so much the rain, because if there's a little bit of wetness, I think it definitely shakes things up. And, the cream usually rises to the top in that occasion. But there were a couple things that happened that I think took the wind for this race, the wind of this race out of its sails, out of this race's sails. But we'll get to that in a minute. There were So this race started in the wet. Well, dampness, anyways. There were a lot of cars that were just dirt tracking it out of the last turn. SVG, of course, he was basically the star attraction because of his performance last year, winning on debut, and he's the main focus. He has basically become a huge star in NASCAR. Because of that win last year, and he has 3 wins this year, including the Xfinity race this year. So a lot of people were picking him as the heavy favorite, and then Kyle Larson and Ty Gibbs, who were in that Xfinity race on Saturday, they were basically picked as the second and third favorites behind SVG. One guy that wanted to kind of spoil all that was Christopher Bell, who has been running pretty good as of late. He's just had some shit luck the last couple of weeks, because late in this race he had dry tires and he was fast, but got taken out in a melee involving Ricky Stenhouse turning Truex into Christopher Bell, and that pretty much wrecked Christopher Bell. So good job Stenhouse, as per the usual, being a fucking idiot. But what really, I think, killed a lot of the enthusiasm for this race was the fact that in Stage 2, when things were starting to get really wet, Turn 6, as it did last year, became Calamity Corner. And on the second caution, Chase Briscoe locked it up, trying to go into Turn 6. Went into the tire barrier, and at the same time, he just clips SVG in the rear bumper. Doesn't turn him around, he actually pushes him into the turn a lot quicker than SVG was anticipating, and it actually sent him into the Turn 6 wall. Broke the right front, and that was it. That was the end of SVG's race. And then the red flag came initially to blow standing water off the track, and then the rains really started coming down, and I think that really killed the aura surrounding this race. With SVG out, a lot of people in the stands just left, because it's like, well, the main attraction's out of this race, so what's the fucking point? And then Larson, once they got back going again after a nearly 2-hour red flag, Larson locks up going into Turn 6 and damn near misses the tire barrier completely and shortened that car up by, I think, like 3 feet. Because he damn near, he definitely partially hit the concrete barrier. But got to restart. A couple guys were doing pretty good. John Hunter Nemechek was running pretty good for a while. Bell and there were a lot of guys with 3 to go in Stage 2 pit for dry tires. The track was still damp though, so going out on the dry tires was still a bit of a gamble. Joey Hand, who was driving the 60 car for Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing, actually ended up winning Stage 2. And of course, he's a road course expert. He's won the Daytona 24, he's won 24 Hours of Le Mans, he's won at Sebring, he's won all kinds of endurance races. We had our fourth and final caution when Josh Berry went head on into the tire barrier in Turn 2. So we managed to get 5 more laps before time ran out. Briscoe went around in Turn 1. Alex Bowman would actually end up challenging Joey Hand for the lead, and actually took it with a nifty move going down into Turn 4, and they were still on the wet tires. Christopher Bell was charging through the field on dry tires, but got spun in Turn 3 as Truex got hooked by Shithouse, like I said. But then Tyler Reddick was on the dry tires, and he was fast. And when he finally got by Joey Hand, Bowman had about like a 3.5 second lead, but Reddick was coming fast. The dry tires and the dry line were much faster than the wets. So I was like, could we see a last lap pass? And because he was coming quick, and I was thinking he may get there Whether or not he could have made a move is up for debate. But Reddick clipped the wall in turn 5 just a little bit. And that was pretty much it. Alex Bowman wins at Chicago, snapping an 80 race winless streak. A lot of guys this year have been breaking winless streaks. Keselowski did it, Logano did it, although I would argue that Logano had no business winning Nashville last week. So there have been some guys that have broke long winless streaks this year. After the race, there were a couple of applications of displeasure. One was Chase Elliott getting into Daniel Suarez on the cool-down lap. And then they had a discussion on pit road afterwards. I guess there was some contact between Suarez and Elliott that cost Elliott a top 20 and ended his top 20 streak. So there was that. And then there was an incident earlier in this race, right before the rains came, where Alex Bowman got into turn 3 a little too hot when it was wet and accidentally spun Bubba Wallace around. And of course, those two have some history. I remember back to the Roval at 2019 when those two basically have been heated. Had a heated exchange. And on the cool down lap here, Bubba Wallace, basically hours after the incident happened, basically turned left and smashed Bowman into the wall. And it's like, dude, at some point, Bubba Wallace really needs to get his anger in check. And for those that are, saying, well, you're just criticizing him because he's black, it's like, shut the fuck up. Okay, this criticism has nothing to do with his skin color. What you dumb motherfuckers don't understand is that when it comes to motorsports knows no gender, no color, no age, no sexual orientation, or any of that shit. When you buckle into that cockpit, everybody's equal. And Bubba Wallace, he is a talented driver. He's certainly talented enough to drive in the Cup Series. And he wouldn't be a race winner in the Cup Series if he didn't have talent. He proved that at Kansas a couple years ago. Is it, generational talent? I mean, right now I don't think it is, but then again, he could pull a Truex and be a late bloomer. I mean, we thought of Truex as a bust for a long time, but then 2015 came knocking, and he just went on a crazy tear. He went from having 2 wins before 2015 to having over 30 now with a championship. So, as far as if he's a generational talent, I'm going to hold my judgment on that for a few more years. But if there is one thing that Bubba Wallace needs to work on, it's his anger management issues, because it has been well documented that he has a lot of anger problems, especially when it comes to using his car as a weapon. Now, is NASCAR going to do anything regarding Chase Elliott or Bubba Wallace? I doubt it, because these expressions of displeasure were on the cool-down lap, not necessarily on pit road. If it was on pit road, it'd be a different story. But both of these incidences happened on the cool-down lap, so I don't expect anything from NASCAR other than maybe a reprimand. But I don't expect any fines or points penalties. Although, I would expect that those two are probably going to get talking to, because it's like, yeah, using your car as a weapon is not cool. So don't do it. So that's how I feel about that. So, race stats, there were 9 lead changes. Of course, when you're in a race that only has 75 laps, well, 58 when you count in the fact that they had to call it early due to darkness. 9 overall lead changes is not terrible for a street course race. 1 pure lead change. Of course, we probably could have had several more, because there were actually lead changes that happened. And then the caution came out before they could cross the line to count that as a purely change, which kind of sucks. Only 4 cautions this time around, which is nice when you consider the fact that each of the last 2 races had at least a dozen. 0 overtimes, which is a massive improvement over last week. 1,386 green flag passes, which comes out to 35.5 on average per lap. Again, it was a much shorter race than what we're used to. And then Ty Gibbs actually ended up leading the most laps with 17 total laps led. And my mother's calling, go figure. So I'm going to go ahead and end this off. My final rating for this race, I'll give it a solid 6 out of 10. It could have been a lot better if some things were different, but you know, it is what it is. But that's going to do it for this edition of The Fuel. I got to take this call. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, this is the PackerMan signing out. Hey, what's happening, ladies and germs? This is the PackerMan letting you know that tonight's video was sponsored by Dubby Jitterless Energy Blend and Reaper Apparel Company. Special shout out to both of them for sponsoring my YouTube channel. Dubby Energy is a jitterless energy blend that contains coffee fruit extract and was designed to give gamers a boost of energy without all the downsides of regular energy drinks like crashes and harmful ingredients. And there are several different great flavors that you can try, such as Dragonade, Push and Punch, Galaxy Grenade, Beach and Peach, Watermelonada, and the limited edition Palm Blom flavor. And don't forget to get you a plastic shaker while you're at it. If you're interested in giving Dubby Energy a shot, there's an affiliate link down in the description box below. In addition to Dubby Energy, this video has also been brought to you by Reaper Apparel Company. By clicking on the affiliate link down below in the description box, you'll be able to browse through many of their different wares, such as hats, t-shirts, hoodies, and other cool items. And that's not the only thing. When you place an order and you go to checkout, be sure to type in the code PackerMan and you'll be able to save 10% off of your order. And it would also help me out as well if you use the affiliate link, so thank you if you do. And also, special thanks to both Dubby and Reaper Apparel for sponsoring my channel. Hey, what's happening, ladies and germs, and thank you for watching tonight's video. Be sure to hit like and subscribe to stay apprised of the latest videos for this channel. If you would like to join the Spare Parts Gaming community, links to their Discord and Facebook are down in the description. Also, if you would like to leave me a tip for the video, a link to my coffee is down in the description box below at buymeacoffee.com/thepackerman71. Also, be sure to give my channel sponsors Dubby Energy and Reaper Apparel Company a shot. Their affiliate links are down in the description box below, and it would help me out as well. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, this is the PackerMan signing out.